Hi, everyone.
Now
Welcome to Crow's Nest.
hey, you know that you can it's either on the left or the right of your screen. You can click it and see the comments. You see that? There's a little
Um,
box. There's a little box that says if you want to see comments, and you click it.
I can sort of, but it's like I can't also read and channel and like talk my oversoul at the
Oh
same
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know,
fine.
because it's like I'm in a zone here. And so
Yeah,
anyway, so
yeah.
we're late. We're a little bit late, but the reason why is that I've decided that we need to start a fundraising campaign in Soulogy. And this fundraising campaign is based around that Brother Todd basically uses his computer as a portal for all of us in the world every day. And because of its high usage, it's not really acting the best that it could right now. And it would be better for our brother if we could maybe crowdsource a little bit of money through donations, our loving donations, to let's get him a new computer, guys. Like, let's make this happen. If 10 people, you know, you don't have to donate a lot. You know, I just pledged 10 because I'm in the process of a move, and so I pledged $10 towards the Todd Medina New Computer Fund. And I know that, you know, possibly there's somebody here who has one that they're able to give up or whatever happens. I know that we set out this intention in love and say that Brother Todd, who does work for us every single day with his computer, needs one, a new one that's going to function with more reliability for him. So let's make that happen. Let's be a community. Let's provide for what each other needs. And like I said, you know, when a bunch of people chip in, you know, $10, $20 adds up super quick over time. And so I'm sure that Todd will receive gratefully any donations. And so thanks for allowing me. Well, he didn't really let me. I just did it. Yeah, that's why we're late. But sometimes, you know, you just have to ask. And you provide for so many of us and do so many amazing things for us that I'm sure that anybody who's able to help out will. So thanks, everyone. So what is the Soulogy PayPal? Can you remind people of that, please?
It's I'll put it in the comments. It's and thank you because you didn't ask me. You just did it.
No.
That's okay. It's I'll post. I think
Well,
it's
my
PayPal.
computer's broken. I mean, if you don't want a computer, I'll use it.
No. I need one, man. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I'll post it. I posted after. Well, I don't want to post it on this show, but because I don't like to post it on this show because you need to post yours.
Yeah, well, you know, this is how abundance works, though, is like when we recognize each other and ourselves in what we can give and receive at any given time, it all kind of balances out. And I know that
you're right.
Behind the scenes, you and I talk about that a lot. And I think that's maybe something we can talk about today is like that process of trusting and manifestation.
Yes.
Especially right now, because so hi, everyone. It's happening. I know you all feel it.
Yeah, it's happening.
Everybody feels it right now, pretty much. The various and the continued energy transition, you know, all that stuff that we hyped about really totally went down. I didn't share this to my Indie Crow Energetics page. Could you do that for me, Todd?
Yes, I
can. Talk and do that at the same time. Thank you, and please. I didn't say please at first. Yeah, and so we're there. And so this is a time where many of us are being brought to cycles or moments where we can kind of rub up against systems, rub up against our relationship with systems, rub up against our relationship with patterns, and have the opportunity to shift them. And so if any of you saw my posting from this morning, which took a really long time to write for some reason, I'm just writing really slow these days. The posting from this morning was really about trusting through the shift and understanding that I know that a lot of people have been experiencing weird density bands or popping up of stuff. Sometimes we would call it 3D stuff, but in some ways I feel like it's got to do with the connections to systems and, you know, ongoing connections that we have that we are going to be invited to release as we continue moving onto you know, our free 5D plus Earth. And I know that some people are definitely having a lot of WTF moments going on about, you know, how things, you know, may or may not be piling up. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about how, you know, one of the things that happens when we call these moments forward, when we step into these processes of abundance or transition, is that, quite frankly, just the stuff that we need to work through in order to step out of that pattern will come towards us. And not as a punishment or not as evidence that we're not doing it well enough, or not even always as evidence that we're still stuck in the same pattern, but sometimes as an indication that we now have this chance to continue co-creating our growth. And so last week, one of the great things that we talked about, there was a viewer, I can't remember her name, maybe Sharon, I think, who was saying, I can't believe this pattern came back up again. I totally thought that I had surpassed it. I totally thought that this was not something that was in my energy body anymore. And I said to her, well, I feel like what you were experiencing, my friend, is definitely obviously another choice to continue on in your path. But sometimes what happens with us is that energy gets coded with a certain face or a name or a vibration. And so sometimes as we're shifting through that energy for the collective, or just continuing to seep it out of our own energy fields, we will have that representative or that representation come up to remind us, oh, hey, this is something that you still have endearing energy connections to that you might want to continue to shift. And sometimes, you know, one of the things we were asking earlier, Todd, was like, how do we make this easier? How do we understand this better?
Yeah.
And it is in part sometimes being able to understand the various ranges of indications and opportunities that are being sent to us, and kind of making sure that we're remaining in an expansive mindset whenever we're wondering about why things are happening, how they are, or how that all works in the grand process. And so, you know, I know that you have thrown yourself into abundance, you know, and I know that you have allowed yourself, you have surrendered to this process, you know, and you are willing to accept help and receive now in a way that you never were. And so just a microcosm example of how this all works is like, okay, so your shit's resetting all the time and it's shutting down. That's fine. We'll get you a new one.
That's
how abundance works.
It is. And I've actually over the last week had, and let me say thank you to, hang on, let me get this. Let's see. Okay. Thank you to who just sent $20 for the computer fund. Sheila Whitney and Mary Stubler, and anybody else that has problems with audio or buffering on the video, close out of your app and go back in because your short-term memory is running out. Yeah. So this past week, actually through yesterday morning, was a culmination of several weeks, really actually months and even years of slowly being shown what I refer to as 5D commerce. So I had this really powerful transmission culminate yesterday morning, right? And so last month on the 27th with the red moon eclipse, I went through this process and I spoke about it on different shows where I hit my knees and I surrendered to the Mother Goddess once and for all, you know, meaning the Mother Goddess and me and such, and we all know how that works. And what had happened was for the previous 4 or 5 days at the end of last month, I was going out on spirit walks on the streets where I used to walk when I was homeless, and I was getting a lot of transmissions and downloads and memories, timelines flattening. But I was also getting this mantra that you're not going to get any money in for a few days. And I said, okay. And I didn't really know how to handle it. So anyway, I went through that, had a huge elevation, as we've all been having these elevations the last few weeks. So come this past few days, and I start walking the streets, and I start hearing this same voice, like, we're going to hold it back here for a little bit. I said, okay. So I went from paying for the first time weekly. I had paid 3 weeks weekly, which I hadn't done in 7 years. And then I had to pay a daily rate at the hotel for 2 days. And I thought, okay, in this 2 days, I know everything's going to work out. I'm just going to stay tuned, right? So what ended up happening was I ended up getting this visit. And in this visit, Rick Jewers talked about it, Morgan Lee talked about it, Pars Kate, there's quite a few people talked about it at the same time in different ways, which was like a Stargate opening. And I'm laying in my bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's dark outside, and all of a sudden I see, you know how when you make birds on a painting, like they're abstract, or just a line like that, right? So picture on the ceiling all these white little things, okay, look like little sparrows, all right, but they weren't you know, specifically like looking like anything. They were more of an abstract, and they were flying all around the room, right? And I'm like, what's going on, man? This usually happens when I'm with Morgan. I'm like, okay. So I felt it happening. And at the same time, at 5 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, my phone vibrates. Somebody sends me a message. And that's okay. I'm going to check that in a minute because I know I'm supposed to. So I start getting this transmission about this Syrian aspect that I am by the name of Azora, right? And then I get this thing. You also have your Alpha Centaurian aspect is present, and so are a whole bunch of Arcturians. It's like a conscious mind. That's what you're seeing on the ceiling. So I reach over and I grab my phone, and my friend sends me a note. She says, "Brother, I just got back from the council. I was meeting with the Arcturian Council of Nine. You are now connected to him. You recognized me." And we said hello. And she starts telling me all this stuff, right? I put the phone down, and I knew I was in sync. And I look to my left, and I see Lyrians, Venusians, and a few other star families. But to make a long story short, a big part of this transmission was about 5D commerce. And I was being shown, and I haven't written this yet because it's going to take me a while. I was shown how it works energetically, and I was being shown that as the physical world transforms, as we transform, all things will transform with us in a way that humans won't even be able to detect, which means bypassing or circumventing or going right through these lawless laws, regulations, possessions, borrowing, collateral, debt, all that crap goes away, and it's all based on an equal energy exchange. And so now we're going to show you how to do that. So I wake up and I got like $75, $100 in my bank. You know, I do have $500 I sent Morgan for a ticket for our travel arrangements so we can reunite at some point. And other than that, I'm sitting here and I'm totally cool. And the next thing I know, and I won't go into the details, the next thing I know, I'm shown a way through this 5D commerce. And in this way, instantly, I was able to instantly receive abundance. So it was like this whole, yeah.
It's funny because so much of what I'm experiencing right now is also around commerce, connections to that system, connections to not so much commerce for me, but I guess more like releasing any connection to the debt system, right? Because I, like many people who probably are here, have accumulated some debt. I fell into the narrative of going to university. You know, I did take out student loans. And, you know, for many years of my life, people think that working as an academic is a lucrative business. And in some cases it used to be, especially when you could get tenure. But I mean, the flexibilization of that industry means that you were working for peanuts and then still paying tuition, I live in a really expensive food is very expensive here kind of a place. And so, one of the things that happened with me is I had issues with lack of abundance. And one of the ways that has kind of come up, I grew up in kind of a poor setting, grew up in really poor places. And so the poverty mindset was a really big part of my life. And so now that I've left the university system and gone out and done this business on my own, it's like things like student loan payments are kicking in, or, how about the bills I couldn't pay, the month that I couldn't work, whenever I was integrating karma for the collective and stuff like that. And, it all adds up. And so recently, like this month, it's been an expensive month for me, and paying back, trying to just like release and balance the energy of what's coming in and what's going out, but also understanding very much that what I'm doing is consciously about releasing my connection to that system at all. And so like, I will use it as an example. So like, as I was saying, whenever we started this, and that prompted your example, is like, we are coming up against patterns, but I don't even like the word coming up against patterns. It's like revisiting energy. Like coming up is like almost like too confrontational. It's like we're revisiting energies, and another time being given the chance to co-creatively figure out ways out of it. And so you have this stuff going on with you're doing. So what have I been doing? I've been manifesting the exact dollar amount of what I require every single day or more. You know what I mean? So it's like, so there'll be like a big panic thing. So like because my credit's kind of fucked, I had just said one company wanted me to pay like $300 to set up my internet. My internet is how I make my money, how I pay for you. I don't know even, you know what I mean? It's like how things are going to work out between now and September 1st. I have no clue. I just know that they will.
That's right.
It's like, it's because it's like to do this work means that a lot of stuff you're doing is unpaid. But then it kind of goes back to this whole thing of trusting that what you give the world is what you receive in balance. Because the more that I allow myself to release my fears of this, and it's interesting that it comes up right at these moments where, okay, so we're changing timelines. And one of the things that is definitely happening on New Earth is this whole system of debt, this whole system of owing is being reworked, taken apart. We have other ways to do this, which is what you were getting at, right? We have other ways to do this, many other ways to do this. And we're finding those ways and doing them right now. And that's kind of the way it is with everything. So it's like, as you have these experiences come up, it's like, remember, do not go into the loop. So say either one of us could go, no, for F's sake, like, how am I going to pay my rent? I don't know how I can eat. I'm in poverty. Like, you know what I mean? You could go to that, or you could say, wow, I've been able to make it this long, and I don't know about you, but I haven't gone hungry any days lately.
No.
And I haven't,
A lot of oatmeal
over my head so far.
I had oatmeal.
You know what I mean?
For 4 straight days, I just ate oatmeal. But I've done that before. It's not a big deal. But you're right, because mana is mana. Food is food.
It totally is. So what you're doing is like, so what we're both doing, and I guess what is interesting to share with the collective is like saying, okay, things that could be really stressful as we move through these bands, right? So I'm moving to a 9th or something higher dimensional frequency. It doesn't really matter what frequency, but the frequency I'm existing on, if I have these connections as they exist, like I can't get there. So I have to remove my connection to the system in order to actually exist in the other one. And I think like at a microcosm, like as an example, this is happening for a lot of people. So it might not be with the financial situation, but I think for a lot of people, the financial thing is one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I was also just like, I love our alignments because I was designing and offering before, like the last thing I was working on before connecting with you, other than the computer thing, was how to support people in finding the creativity to share their vision and also experience, find a way to balance their living, basically to make money doing what it is they do as a sharer. Finding ways to do that, but in a way that's high vibrational and meets their needs, as opposed to like.
Well, and I think what I'm getting from the team, our teams, our family. It's a lot like the meeting we had offline the other day, where we just kind of like met and we're like, okay, why are we here? And then it all came. In other words, everything's kind of being, not everything, but because it all comes down to us. But a lot of things are happening behind the scenes. And one of the examples they gave me, and I was even asking them last night, do you want me to write about this? Because that's really not my bailiwick. I'm a writer, but do you want me to like sit down and write what this looks like? And I'm kind of getting an answer, and I don't know if I will, but what I'm saying is this: the things that were set up, and we're just going to use the financial part of it.
It's a great example that everybody kind of connects to.
Yeah. So if you look at the whole false matrix, which is also inside of us, that we had implanted, it was not built from a pure love intention from the heart. It was built by deceit, and we were duped. And so anything that's not pure love will not stand as we raise this vibration. So those things are going to fall apart with or without our focus on breaking them down. Our focus is, like you're saying, is to look directly at this higher vibration, this equal energy exchange. And one of the things that I was shown was every time something comes in, and I'm just a reflection of everybody else, every time something comes in, don't look at the amount. Look at the energy of it. Because I get a lot of $3, $7.77, $8.88, $11.11. So look at the energy of it. Thank you. And then when you put it out, look at the energy of it, not the amount. And then the other thing I was shown, which I really believe is going to take hold, I'm not quite sure, I won't go 100% yet, is that everything that comes in, 1/369, 1/3 goes, you pay forward to those that you support. So to those that are in the same boat, to the people you're talking about, to people like you or like me or a lot of our colleagues. And
a lot of us do give donations to each other, and a lot of us will save up, and that's a lot of us do that to make sure that's keep us all being supported.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that's how it goes, and the way it gets ignited and the way the accelerator gets pushed on this thing is by the actions that we take. It goes beyond now thoughts and words. It goes to action. So to disengage from a false matrix aspect is as simple as focusing on the real aspect, which is an equal energy exchange in this example. And that is the alignment of your heart's expression is what brings in the superabundance. So if you like to sing and dance, you sing and dance. If you like to do art, if you like to teach people, instruct people, guide people, whatever aligns your heart with all your aspects, and the most important human aspect is all in alignment, and you put that out there, this is how the abundance comes in. And the way it keeps being propelled is by then paying forward a percentage of that to those that are doing the same thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, one other aspect of it that I would like to add to your sharing is that we're manifestors. We are capable of instant manifestation, instant creation. And so the love thing is important, right? It's like if you were manifesting within a vibration of love, then you can basically make anything happen immediately. And I know that one of the big tests that I have been working through in my own personal initiation process through this is that, like, okay, so I went through the love thing, that happened. So what's the next thing? That would have been like weak point money. And so this time it's like it's happening nicely, because it's just like, so what do? I focus on manifesting the abundance that I require. It's not always financial abundance. I focus on manifesting the opportunities that I'm going to require to have my needs met. So it's not always about just like, I'm going to go out and change my career and do this vision. It's that I trust that I, as an individual, can call forward the opportunity to connect with that which I require, you know, to survive, to learn, to grow. And then, so that philosophy of being a manifester and of understanding how to say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I require, and putting that out there, having the faith, you know, having the faith, and also being able to kind of step back, which I think is part of what you were doing, and just saying, and step back and allow the energy to do its work. And so, like, and again, kind of complimenting what you were saying, you know, it's like, I do not look at my bank account and I don't look at my PayPal account that much. And if you continue to go back there over and over and over again, it's a sign of stress and worry. And you're then attaching stress and worry to what's coming in. Sometimes you just got to let it happen for a day. And just kind of a funny aside that's kind of goes with our conversation. My bank, my whole the whole institution that I bank with, you can't get online anywhere today. It's like, oh. When those moments happen, I kind of actually get excited. I'm like, what's going on in there? Let's connect some forgetting energy into some of those dead things that are happening, you know, like, let's shift them.
The way I understand it is that anything that we were unconscious of, and this is going back, because I probably have, going back to my old life, probably, you know, I don't know, $500,000 in debt, maybe more, I don't even know. But anything that was done unconsciously from that lower level of awareness is not even applicable. We can remove all oaths, contracts, such as just like we've done with our past life contracts and that type of thing, that were not made out of pure love or whatever. But
I know people that are actually doing this through the legal system in America right now.
No, they are, and that's right. I mean, and those people,
signing debt, just gone.
Richard Sauter just put Richard Sauter. I think the people that disengage from the birth certificates and the IDs and all that, and the financial, I think they were energetic warriors that broke these doors down, where we can now do this a little bit easier. But that's part of what I had received, was that anything from this point forward that you contractually agree to, you have to have the integrity and hold it up regardless of what the deal is. But if it's not an equal exchange, it will not stand anyway. So I don't know. I don't
want to pay off the rest of my student loans.
Hell no. You know what? No way.
That's $40,000 I could invest in something else, like helping build a better world. You know.
Look, they took a lot more money from us than we did.
Which I guess is what I thought I was doing anyway. Well, and so it's kind of exciting that we're at this. You know, it's a cool thing that we're having these moments happen, but it's also. And I mean, like, let's take it to a different thing, you know, because how did we get onto this topic even? Because we're going through those huge moments of energy bands of transition. And this is the thing that you and I have in common, the money thing. We're experiencing this together right now, and we're working through this together. But there are other parts of this healing and growing process that our brothers and sisters who are here in our viewership and like participating as co-creators of this hour with us every week are going through too, right? Because you know, and this is part of what I wanted to talk about. I've been busy just doing service work. So during these times, some people, they're like, so, well, Katie, what's a day in your life like? It's like, do you really? Okay, so a day in my life is like, I wake up and I, you know, maybe do some yoga, give Damien cuddles, have a coffee, and then pretty much immediately while I'm doing that process, I'm checking in. I'm aligning. The first thing I do is aligning my energy body, beginning to work on clearing and aligning what happened, and, you know, like just making sure everything's good to start the day, setting my intention, setting my connection. From there on in, because my intention and my connection is to serve Gaia, that's what I do all day long. And so, you know, I'll spend like 4 or 5 hours doing grid work on the earth, like by physically moving around it, because sometimes the types of stuff that you got to do is involving that. A lot of the time it's deep meditation in multiple dimensions and bringing information through. And then, it's just like a lot of sharing with people, supporting my students and clients, coming up with ideas, having funny conversations with people like you, and just otherwise kind of being engaged in the ascension process. It really is like a 24/7 thing for me. And I know that it is for a lot of people. And so I haven't had the time always to just do the write-ups, because sometimes that 24/7 dispersion means you got to work hard. And so those new codes that people are talking about, the gateway and stuff, I have been part of that, and I've worked very hard at this, and it makes me so excited to hear other people writing about it, because for so long it's been you just do the work and then you connect to the hope and you know that it's okay. And I'm just really happy about what's happening. And so now that we're here, I'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, these super high vibe codes. So we experienced them on August 11th, which would have been the new moon, or the sun thing, the new moon solar eclipse. So the next day is really when it started, right? And so it was like, and everybody felt a lot of that coming, of the clear, pure energy coming in, and it's continued to come in all week long. It's been going for 11 days now. 8/18, 18 was also a really notable day. It was a day where certain codes that were old in the system had been overwritten. And so pure Adamic or pre-Adamic type codes have been released back into the energy stream. So this means pre-Lemurian. This means older than a lot of civilizations. And what that means is that we're kind of working with codes that don't carry the energetic debris or energetic resonance of all the stuff that happened in those particular times and places. So how is that different? So for a while, right, we were working on this Atlantis timeline that had a lot of death and destruction. That was not a good timeline for planet Earth to be on, right? And so we did a whole bunch of work to get ourselves off that. And we got out of that around like 2016. And then sometimes around like Christmas of 2016, we were able to cut off a whole bunch of Alter Draco timelines that were weighing down Earth and had another potential for really lower vibrational catastrophic activity. And then so people were like, okay, we're now connecting to the golden age of Atlantis. And then, so blah, blah, blah. Over the year, it became, okay, maybe we can get even before Atlantis. Can we get the Lemurian codes? And then we got those codes and we cleared them. And so now we've actually done such a good job that we're going even before that. So that doesn't mean that useful parts of any of those codes are being filtered out. They're all still part of the human experience.
Yeah.
But what it does mean is that we have moved to a very, basically, probably one of the best scenario case outcomes we could have asked for in terms of the trajectory of ascension planning. And it is totally because people are taking this in their hearts and they're contributing to it on a day-to-day basis. So big, huge shout out to everybody who takes the time to do the Earth meditations, the Sandra meditations, who builds the grids, who does whatever it is that you're doing. Everybody is actually working together. And it's fantastic. This would not be happening without our collective effort. There is no one light worker or no one team of light workers who is responsible for this. This is because Planet Earth loves Planet Earth, and the people here are really serious about sharing this and co-creating this together. So big high fives to everyone. This is a group achievement. And so, okay, great. So what does that mean? Well, that means that, my friends, for us to receive the codes, we have a certain amount of energy clearing to do within ourselves. And then it's also happening on the resonance bands that are the kind of what we would call the vibrational dimensions of reality. And so, a bunch of people are waking up and making their transition from 3rd to 4th to 5th dimension. So that's one thing in itself, right? That's you're actually making your body a crystal from a magnet. You're raising your vibration and you're turning everything on. That was a lot of what we talk about when you talk about awakening your energy body, your chakra system. And that's very closely connected to what's going on with solar flares and stuff like that too. It's whenever that happens, it's clearing out your system. And so one half of the people I'm talking to mostly right now are people who are working through that transition into 5D plus reality or more, right? Because that whole bifurcation thing is still also happening. So, so around the 18th, a lot of the stuff that we had signified and cemented in, and I had said this kind of earlier last week too, started kind of happening. So our trajectory was chosen and formed. And now it's shifting the energies one by one out, kind of grooming your energy lines with your action and your intention every day as you're moving forward. And so a lot of people are kind of moving to the 5th dimensional frequency resonance band, which is awesome. Yeah. That means they're vibrating at the intentionally at pure love, and they're incorporating that as where they want to be in their day-to-day life. Yeah. And so a lot of love to the people who are feeling the weirdness that is also a part of that process, because as we know, there are a lot of physical sensations and a lot of emotional sensations and a lot of spiritual sensations that go along with this.
My face and my beard are getting burned, man. They're like all red and stuff. My
Have you
scalp.
had the head before? Like at one point, like I had this big, like where my crown was at one point, like it was like a big dandruff, but it wasn't dandruff. It was
yes, that's what I get it right here, and I get it right here on my third eye, and I get it on my head, you know, and I can, yeah. And what'll happen is I'll wash my hair, take a shower, go to bed, you know, and I moisturize it. I wake up in the morning and I'm like totally dehydrated. I mean, like spent, you know, like I've got no moisture in my body. And that's been happening a lot this past week. And you said something earlier, and that's part of the general transmission, or the general understanding that I got over these transmissions. There was two of them in the past week, and one of them was, as I understood it, you're connected, you're aligned, you're listening, you're hearing, you're one with this higher aspect, or I don't like to say higher, this aspect, this Syrian aspect of yourself that is significant because it is the highest point of origination of where you stand now, meaning that like we got to that point and a new mission started, and this is where it's ended up. And so through the Syrian aspects life, I had all, you know, I'm just an example as everybody else. I had all these different lives, Alpha Centurion, and this life and that life and this life. And then, of course, all the human incarnations. But now everything from that point back is aligned. And this isn't just me. This is everybody. And what I was going to get to was what you said. I was told, Morgan was told this, we were told this together, so these, and other people are talking about it, and that is humanity has done the work and has opened this thing up. And now that means that we can reach through these stargates and we can pull from any of these infinite aspects, skills and abilities, but at the same time, it also means that they've come in the door, you know? And so I experienced that. I know a lot of other people are because I'm watching them do it. You know, I'm watching Marco do it. I'm watching Rick Jewers do it. I mean, everybody's connecting at a higher, more amped up vibration, and it's starting to be verbalized and expressed. And I think it's going to be full bore, man, through the end of the year. I'm excited.
Well, October. So you've had Romeo Barron on the show, right?
Yeah.
So Romeo is somebody that I communicate with. He's definitely, you know, in the circle. And so one thing he is saying, and I guess other people that do QHHT are talking about October. So my comment on that is that, I mean, like, so I lay energies in potential. I'm an architect of light, right? And so this whole timeline thing is like one of my babies that I just really participate in heavily. And so we do groom fairly far in the future, considering how things are happening. And so that doesn't mean that it's for certain what's happening. That doesn't mean I am the dictator. It just means I'm a conduit of energy that comes in through star codes. And because I'm a conduit for it, I read it, understand it, and can kind of give a reflection on it, which is how I understand a lot of the stuff I understand, right? It's like when you experience it, you feel it, that's how you understand. And then so with this stuff, I have been having the nicest feelings about fall since probably about June. And it just keeps getting better and better. And so now that I'm hearing all these people, talking about October as a thing, I'm just like, yeah, it feels great. I mean, and this also kind of goes back, like yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of the eclipse. And I think that you had mentioned earlier on in the broadcast.
Yeah,
right? And so earlier
broadcast,
oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because I was on a mountain in Utah and I did a video and it came up memories and some.
Right. And so the year long, so we had a year pocket where a lot was changed during eclipse. And so kind of going back in reflection, we went into the big wave on a year ago, a year and a day ago, last year. And so I see what we have experienced in all the shifts and transitions. I mean, not that a year is the perfect cycle, but if you kind of look back and reflect at the patterns, you do get the sense that much of what was began is finishing up. And on a personal reflection, I find it interesting. It's like, I'm out of this house in a few days and I have a bit of a gap before I start in the new one. And I definitely get the acute sense as I'm shifting through my own energy body, because you work on your own energy body every day, right? Too, is that it's like all that came before now is over. And it's like, and I mean, I've experienced that feeling before. only once before to this extent, but it feels like kind of a bit of an all that became before is over. It's like we opened up the Christed timelines on June 21st, and it feels like this is the moment where the vibration is high enough to finally step in and fully live them. And I do believe that. So we're turning. So I'm going on tour again soon. It's like
we're running the same. It's the same thing happening here. I'm going through a little something, and mine will be up in 7 days. And I know in that 7 day. See, here we go. So yeah, it's the same thing. And I know there's like a gap, and I don't know what's going to happen during this gap. I don't know. But I'm excited.
Fun. So this goes back to what we started the broadcast with. This is exciting because this is where we trust. This is where we actually trust this process. We allow ourselves to go through. So, okay, whatever. If money stuff is coming up, I'm just going to deal with it in the highest heart that I have. If anything is coming up, like I've had a lot of like annoying mail messages lately of like that trying to get your attention in the old vibrational way. But it's like even me saying annoying suggests that I haven't quite healed myself yet. And so like another practice that I've been going through is learning how to respond to that with more grace. Because I feel like it's quite rude to ignore people. You never know when somebody is reaching out because they need your help. Or not need your help, but maybe you never know why somebody's reaching out. And so I feel like I'm being really rude if I don't answer any emails.
I try to answer, but they're coming in so fast now that it's very difficult. Sometimes I try to handle them with intentions, but you said something right there that's important about when you feel uncomfortable and it hits you a certain way. It's not them; it's something in you. So I went through this two. It was a session Morgan and I did. Well, I called her up and said, "Will you hold space for me? Because something's about to go down." This is going back about a week, and they came in and I mean they were there, and I saw them. They had these galactic surgical tools. They were cleaning me out once and for all. They were saying, "Hey, you're ready. It's over. Humanity's ready. Let's push this thing. Let's fast track this thing." And I felt, and I saw a lot of different things, and I knew that my light body was pure, clean. It was done, right? So yesterday, something happened, and I took notice of it. And what happened was, I don't remember what the impetus for it was, but it was either a message somebody sent me, but the thought entered, and it made me uncomfortable. And I said, "Oh, fuck that." And then it went to a part of my body and lodged in like an implant. And I said, "Oh, okay, you're going to show me something here." Yeah, you are a creator. You are the energy master. This is how these things get planted. If you say, "Oh, fuck off," they're going to be there, okay? Because you're putting it out there. You're not taking the responsibility. So I went in, I examined it. I just spontaneously, intuitively took the energy, transmuted it, transformed it, and brought it back to pure love. And I felt it leave my body. And so we have the ability to do this, but we have to pay attention, like you said, to what makes you feel uncomfortable, and we have to be responsible and own that.
Yeah. Well, why does it make me uncomfortable? I mean, I'll be honest, like there are weird density bands that do ripple through the collective when stuff like when we make these timeline transitions. And so like, you might notice a wave of a certain type of energy being expressed in people around you. Maybe there will be the exact same kind of question come up like 4 or 5 times over the course of a week from different people. Do you know what I mean? And that's so even sometimes when it's weird, it's like as a conscious creator of this earth, when that weirdness comes to me, which it often does, and this kind of goes to the thing Rick was saying, it's like I feel like it's very important that I act in the highest vibration of pure love and how I perceive and choose to connect or not connect to the situation. Because the only way that we're going to, you know what I mean? Like, so the only way that we're going to ever really be able to transfigure or alchemize this energy or even to create that loving path is just to do it. And so it's not to say that we're forever going to have to answer annoying emails. But it is to say that ignoring people, ignoring things doesn't necessarily always solve what it is that causes the discomfort, which is exactly what you were just saying, right? It's like the discomfort will come back in another way. If you still have that boundary that needs to be pushed, or for the case of me, it's like sometimes, so one of the reasons I decided to go and design the thing I'm designing is because like, I know a lot of people, but you know what it is? It's I know a lot of people who are working through a certain thing, like trying to get their energy expression out. And so as part of the sharing community, you know, sometimes things happen. So like the last couple of days, I've had a lot of people add me as their friend on Facebook and then immediately try to advertise or sell something to me. And I really do not feel that that's a balanced activity. I mean, and I say that recognizing I'm a person who built a business that is run on Facebook, but it's like, I would never, you know what I mean? It's like the energy of that makes me feel really uncomfortable. So it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to bitch about those people, or am I going to sit there and think, okay, so what can I do that's positive? I can send out a perspective on how to build loving relationships with people and genuine organic connection over time. And, you know, to one of these people, because you don't just turn on a person either. So my tests have been, you know, so I write them and I ask them, did you friend me? You know, what is the reason that you added me as your friend? You know, what is have you sent me this message? And so in having that experience, one of the persons actually wrote me back and he's like, does it make, you know, and he basically said, is that a weird thing to do? Does that make you feel weird? And we got to actually have a conversation about how, you know, I love meeting people on the internet. This is where I've met a lot of my great friends. I go stay at their families' houses and love their children and their partners, you know, but it's like, it feels really weird whenever somebody adds you and targets you as to be advertised to. And I just loved that, you know, me opening the door to allowing myself to, instead of shutting my door and thinking, oh, that's an annoying person, I got inspiration for an idea of a sharing. I got to express how I felt in that situation. And I had a meaningful conversation with somebody, you know, about how that made me feel and how that works. And it was really good for both of us, I think, because I think we both got the chance to grow. Me, grace and patience is very important. And for that person.
No, for everybody it is.
It's hard sometimes, right? Because it's like when you're really busy all the time, you know, and you've got all this stuff going on, it's like sometimes it does take a minute to take that patient approach. It does take a minute to slow down and be loving. But I think that those minutes are minutes well spent in your human existence, right? Yeah,
I agree. I really like that post that Rick Jewers did yesterday about August 21st and 22nd. And of course, we're not linear, but we have to try to put these things out and explain them. And he said that this 48-hour period was extremely important because it was setting up a temporary holding pattern for the next few months or even up to a year in terms of what timeline we would be walking on. And what he really said was, and again, not to get caught up in the specifics or the linear aspect of it, it really a rule for the road for every day from this forward in the ascension, and that is to stay in the virtues, what I call the virtues of the soul, the virtues, the integrity, the authenticity, or even beyond, deeper than authenticity, the realness, the genuine aspect of you. So when you take on the energy like you were just talking about in that example, you know, that's being true. That's being you're being in integrity, and you're not avoiding anything, you know, telling it to F off or blocking it out, because you can't block out any aspect of the universe. But, you know, what I got out of it was I channel. You know, when I do these radio shows, I'm pretty much channeling the whole time. It's channeling everything. And so I've been doing these ones where I do like 3 songs and some freestyle and stuff. But what I got yesterday during this channel was very powerful for me. And it was, this is a time to pick up the phone and tell people I love you. This is the time to pick up the phone and say, I'm sorry. This is the time to take each thing that pops up in your head or occurs in your human interactions in the moment to be straight and be in integrity, because it is a vibration that will be mirrored by the universal all around you, beginning with the people standing right next to you. So this is the time to come clean. And I'm watching people struggle with it. Good friends of mine, and I'm just telling them, look, man, no one can do it for us. This is the way this thing works. It's scary as hell, but face the fear, walk through it, because you've got much more than yourself. There's a huge team, a huge family around you, and it's like falling backwards, you know, blindly into the hands of Mother Goddess. That's, you know, we're good. Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to just kind of go back to a question that I think that was asked, and I think her name was Carolyn, but it kind of goes in with this too, and the topic of integrity. So they said, okay, so what do you do if somebody does something horrible to you?
Yeah.
You just let it roll off your back. And so here is where you can't have a universal answer for anything, you know, and every answer has to be, what is the most constructive and positive thing I can do in this situation? If a person is violent, there's pretty much nothing you can do but get out of there. I will never, I mean, I don't agree, and I don't like, and we've talked about this in other episodes, actually, where I've faced violence and the tests of responding nonviolently in a violent situation. And so, it's like, it's very important, though. I'm a firm believer of saying a few words. If you have really hurt me, I mean, I don't need to go. One thing I've noticed is in our language, we rant a lot. And I mean, I'm long-winded sometimes. But how we choose to express ourselves, especially in a discordant situation, often has a lot of extra shit attached to it than what the actual message is. And so what I think is really important is learning how to step back and say it in a few words, and being able, if you need to say, hey, when you did that, that really seriously negatively impacted my life. And I hope that you take that on board as you move forward. You know what I mean? But like never arguing is not a productive use of your time. Neither is being a pushover either. And so it really depends on where you're at in this process. Having firm boundaries is really important.
And I think it's important too, because the other person doesn't always know, and I'll just give you a little example. They don't
always know, and we have to remember that too.
No, and what happens is, well, okay, I'll give you an example, like with me and Morgan, right? So I'm pretty loud. I can get very loud. To me, it just sounds like, like if I'm saying, hey, what's going on, man? That's not too loud.
No.
But when we would get into not necessarily arguments, but animated conversations, maybe, because we get into an argument, she just pulls Callie out and then I'm gone. No, but I'm kidding. But so what would happen was I would get emotional, and my voice would raise, and my passion would raise, and my imbalance would raise. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because she said something, and you reminded me of it. She said one time, just being honest about it, she said, listen, when you do that, there's something inside of me, and it frightens me. Now, it's not like, I'm going to hurt you, frighten me. It wasn't like that, but it was something to do in my mind with just the conditioning that the feminine had gone through or whatever it was. But the whole point is I was not aware of how strong and forceful my voice can be. And then I went through all these past memories thinking, oh, you scared the hell out of these guys and those women and da. So I think it is important. What you're saying is if somebody makes you uncomfortable, you're not really putting it on them, but you're just providing them that information, because ultimately you are taking it into yourself. Why is this making me uncomfortable? But so that was a good point. That was a very good point.
It's funny because I have had that thing come up too. It's like I felt like I've actually just kind of on the other end of that. A lot of the time I felt like other people have silenced my expression. It's like, all right, so I get excited and my voice raises a little bit. Do I have to talk monotone just to please you? And that has been... You know what I mean? And that has been a long-standing thing, actually, in my communication. Yeah. It's like, even if I talk in the same voice, if I have any measure of I'm not in that perfect space of love, people feel it. Yeah. So if I'm feeling sad or upset, it's like a scratch on a nail. It's like a scratch of a nail. And, to be honest, I've really, really felt restricted in my communication in my life throughout that, because holding so much power. And maybe this is also something that people are realizing. The more you raise your energy body and the higher the vibration, the more everything you do creates a ripple.
Yeah.
And so it becomes really important to be consciously aware of that ripple. And so, I'm still working on that part of my ripple. I understand that if I have an expression, like, it affects people. And so, being somebody who feels so much, it is my responsibility also to find a way to temper that feeling with how it comes out.
Yeah.
But, but also, but then at the other end, it's like, just for conversation's sake, just because something makes us feel uncomfortable doesn't mean other people have to consciously 100% always bend to what, you know what I mean? It's like part of being around is understanding. So it's like, yeah, that's a thing that I'm working on now. So it's funny you have the same thing. Me and my hyper masculinity. I'm so masculine. I'm working so hard about it.
I ran into, she won't mind me talking about this, but Michelle Wallen came back on the show this past week.
Michelle has been a contact and supporter. She's great.
Yeah, she is. And we got to know each other pretty good last year. We had been in contact for a while, but she hit me up. And so before the show, she said, oh my God, man, for 2 months I was shut down. She talked about it on the show. It was a great show. But she was telling me off camera before the show that she had found her masculine, she had found her masculine in herself, and how much it was, I don't want to say intruding, but how much control it was having, and this and that. And she was unaware. And like, we can only see what we can see. So Michael's put up a comment. What do you do when you reach out and they don't respond? Well, I think that's pretty quick and easy. If you put the energy out there with intention, they don't respond. You've done what you need to do. You've done what you need to do. So,
well, and with some people, it's like, and I've been in this situation with the partner that ghosted on me, and he eventually did reach out, by the way, and he had a mental breakdown. So let's send some love to him. That ended. He did eventually reach out, and I guess that also is part of it. Sometimes people aren't ready to talk. And even though we might really want to talk, and we know that talking is going to fix it, and we can see that things are just being made so much worse by not talking. Like, if a person is not ready, zero
ready.
Other than love ourselves enough to respect their boundary.
I have that with one
enough to respect their boundary too, right?
That's right. I have one of that with one of my 6 children, and it's gone on for years, years and years and years. And when we get together, everything's cool because the love is too undeniable. But I've been here back in the hometown for a few weeks, and I asked 2 or 3 times, and I get no answer. So that's all I can do. There's nothing else I can do. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Well, and I think it's like, one thing that we tend to think of is like doors closing and opening. And I think that this is something that a lot of people think about on the path too, right? Because as you raise your vibration and as you change what you're doing, a lot of people sometimes feel like they fall out of communication with family, or they feel like that as they make their changes, maybe not talking to somebody now while they're doing healing doesn't always mean you're not going to talk to them forever, Sometimes the thing that we need to do is give people their space, and it might be a year, 2 years, or 3 years later. But if they come back and it's in alignment, then you can have that conversation. And maybe it's going to be much more than it ever could have been if you would have forced the agenda. People can surprise you. And I think that we also forget that and I know you don't forget this, but it's like people are in their own growth process too. And so it's like when we're hurting and we're moving through our stuff, we're just like, oh, why can't they just see it from my perspective? No idea maybe what's going on in their head.
That's right. And
not everybody's ready for this right now,
And that's been a big part of this this ongoing continuing communion transmission that I've been getting for, I don't know, about a day and a half now. And it has been recognized. It's like it says, I'm hearing it. Recognize what you're seeing, and there is no response. So I see these things happening around me. Somebody does this, somebody does that. And I just look at it. Instead of saying, why did they do that? I look at them, this is why they did that. But from a different perspective, it's why they did it as why they're projecting or whatever the case is. It's not a judgment. It's just something I don't need to get involved in. Unless,
it totally does change whether you choose to respond or not, or how, being able to do things. Because it's like, just totally agree with what you said. If a person is hurting and they're doing things, it's like, it's totally much easier to just say, look, I can't respond to you right now because you're going, or if this is part of your process, and being able to see people and love them through their process is also big, because those of us who are first and second wavers, guess what? Now we get to love our friends and family through this too. And some of you, like one of the things is like when your vibration raises, you get into conversations with people, and every once in a while, there's that little energy as they come to blockages and begin to remove it, right?
Yeah.
And so a big part of space holding is to know whenever it's an energetic and it's probably better for you to just peace out with love, right? Like,
are you in Nova Scotia?
I am in Nova Scotia right now, yeah.
Is Nova Scotia part of Canada?
Yeah.
It is. Okay, I didn't know that. So
it depends on which Canadians you ask, because basically to most Canadians, Canada ends in Quebec, and they kind of don't remember that there's Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island out here.
And those are okay. I'm just curious I was curious about that because somebody was asking me about it the other day. Yeah, I think it's amazing what's happening. Somebody mentioned about they're watching this show and their throat chakras expanding. I just want to say for everybody, that's been my mission involves broadcasting and providing a platform for people to, like Katie, partners, you know. And what I'm getting at is that what I've understood is that there's a certain type of integration that takes place with the 3D and the 5D plus when the human, the hero, ignites and activates it by verbalizing, most of the time verbalizing some type of expression, but normally some type of verbalization, be this a truth you're speaking to somebody, be this an expression of your heart you're putting out to the world, or whatever the case is. Our throat chakras are expanding, and they expand more and more in a contagious fashion by the more of us that do it. So I just want to say that, and thank you for letting me say that.
Hey, everything you say matters, right? You're part, and I think it is just consciously listening, consciously sharing, and you know, even for some people, you know, and hello to the Newfoundlander. Oh gosh, do you just feel like you're alone? Well, you are out on the rock, I suppose, out there. I love Newfoundland, and on the Labradorite and Labrador. But you know, for a lot of people, even just coming and being visible and beginning to type the comments here, and people openly sharing the situations that they're in. It's like, you know, there's some really great conversations that go on in the comment sections of these broadcasts, right. Not just mine, but lots of people's. And I feel like how people have the strength to maybe, you know, write a sentence or two about where they're at right now. It's like another person is probably going to come along and read that and feel some identification. And you're helping them with their healing process at that point, right? Because we have lots of brothers and sisters who aren't at the point where they're ready to write the comments yet. But maybe they're here just listening, you know, and maybe something I didn't talk about or you didn't talk about, but gets mentioned in the comments helps them get that spark of connection and love. Yeah. Remember, right? And so, yeah, it's all around. It's very important to have heart-based expression and to support it in all its forms.
That's right. And someone who, that's a great point, because I know people that watch but never say anything. Mm-hmm. Because you can pick up on it, but it is a form of the throat chakra expanding. If you take somebody who, let's say, just watching shows and then starts to comment, that just because that's not spoken doesn't mean that's not a throat chakra expression.
Yeah, it's
still energetic. Yeah, it's energy. It's all energy. Yeah. Just like my big pink unconditional love energy for you.
I love you, Todd. So I love all of you for joining us. Sessions, if anybody wants sessions, I have some session openings that I'd love to fill to keep the abundance flowing to support this move. We have the Todd Medina Computer Fund going on in Soul. So I've made a post in Soulogy about it. Check it out. I'll fix the PayPal there because he would like to remain with mine here. And so my PayPal is paypal.me/KatieIndyCrow. So we'll see you next week. There will be no broadcast interruption, it turns out, because of my traveling.
There you go.
So
we'll work it out either way. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, much love, Todd, and to everyone who's listening. Love you. Thank you.
I'll reach out to you. I'll send you the MP4, but I'll reach out to you the next couple of days. Okay?
Good. Okay.
Love you.
All right, love you. Bye-bye.